we're talking about perspective because when kids, when parents talk to children, they often talk to them as if they are talking to a little adult. When you talk to children, are you talking to them like they're children, or are you talking to them like they're like they're little grown-ups? They're adults. Most adults do, and herein lies the problem. And this is why I want to talk to you about perspective, because you will relate much better to a child if you see the world through their perspective. Okay, so kids, it's hard to remember what it's like when we were children. But when we were children, there were so many new things going on. Everything's new. When you're little, everything is new. This is a good lesson on perspective when you relate to anyone. If you can see the world through their eyes, this is what's important. We're going to relate it to children, but honestly, this can go for coworkers. This can go for business partners. This can go for family. When, you're looking at them one way and you're like working off of two totally different things. Even your spouse, when you're thinking about what are they thinking? Why don't they logically see the problem like I see it? Because they are seeing it through a different perspective. Now, I'm going to relate this directly to kids, but honestly, guys, the perspective you approach a situation with will help you regardless of who you're talking to. Okay, so let's get started with kids, though. When you were a kid, everything was exciting. Everything was new. When you see a kid, they're like fired up to see you or talk to you. And they're just excited. They're so excited. And grown-ups tend not to be that excited. Kids, will see something and they've got to touch it. They've got to touch everything. They've got to feel everything. They've got to check out everything because it's all new to them. It's things they've never seen before. You may have seen something a million times. Like, okay, it's the holidays. This might be their first time really looking at a Christmas tree. Where have you seen a Christmas tree a million times? To a child, a Christmas tree is full of lights and ornaments and things that get to be touched. So when you're like, don't touch that, they're not touching it to mess it up. Even though adults may be thinking that, they're touching it to explore it, to learn more about it, to find out what makes it light up or what makes it move. That's what they're touching it for. And adults look at it, oh, they're just going to mess it up. They're trying to ruin it. And that is not true at all. They are trying to learn. Everything for a child is a learning experience. So when you go to talk to a child or deal with a child, try to think of the situation and how a child would look at that. When you go to talk to them, what is a small child going to think about the conversation you're about to have with them? You have to think like a child. To communicate with a child, to relate to a child, you have to think from their point of view, not yours. That's why when you're talking to a child, if you're standing and you're gigantic to a child who is 3 feet tall and you're 5.5 feet tall, that's double child height. Come down to their level. Relate to them on their level. That's why people will go and they'll go to see a Mickey Mouse, for example, which is all the things into my head. Now, when a child sees Mickey Mouse on the TV, Mickey Mouse is oh yay big. When a child sees a 5 foot or 6 foot Mickey Mouse, That is like seeing a giant monster. So when you go to take them to see the Easter Bunny, to see Santa Claus, to see a clown, to see one of their favorite characters that they see on TV, Peppa Pig, all these little guys they see on TV, and you go to see someone dressed up like that, and they freak out, and you are amazed that they freak out. They're freaking out because they're not seeing the little Peppa Pig they're used to. They're seeing a 6-foot large Peppa Pig. And to a small child, that is overwhelming. So a lot of parents will get these costume characters for a child's birthday, and the child will freak out about it. And they will just not know what to do. And the parent will be like, oh my gosh, they're so upset. That's because it is not the little thing they see on TV. It is a gigantic thing. And that is perspective. That is seeing something through the eyes of a child, seeing it through a different perspective. Sometimes all you need is a little perspective. So also remember with kids, first of all, kids have no fear for the most part, unless you put fear into them. Now, what I mean by that is if you go, a child's going to get on a sliding board, and before they even get on a sliding board, you say, oh, now don't be afraid. If you tell them they should not be afraid, all of a sudden they're thinking, I should be afraid. There's something to be afraid of, when they didn't have any fear before. So don't put things into their mind. Don't put words into their mouth and into their brain. Give them a chance to try new things, because overall, kids don't have fears. They don't know what they should be afraid of. Also, they're always trying to learn. So no matter what they're approaching, they're always trying to learn something new. So they're very exploratory, they're touchy-feely, they're checking it out, they're crawling into spaces to get to something that maybe they should or shouldn't be getting to. They're going around things, they're climbing on things, all to explore, not to get in trouble and not to ruin your stuff. Adults approach children as an adult. They think they're talking to an adult. They're not talking to an adult. You're relating to a child. And let me know with a 1 in the comments or an emoji if you can relate to this when you're dealing with children. Because, a lot of times parents forget what it's like to be a child. They forget because it's been a long time since you've been a child. But if you can relate to the experience your child is having, whether they're a toddler or they're a teenager, and you can remember back to when you were that age. Now, you may not be able to remember when you were 3, but if you're dealing with teenagers and you can remember when you were 13 or 15, it will help you be able to relate to your child. Another thing, they want to try everything. Whatever it is, they want to try it. So if you're able to let them help you with things and let them try new things and let them handle things, like simple household appliances, let them try to vacuum, let them try to sweep, let them participate in the family and the things that go on to keeping a family and a household together. Let them participate. They want to. They want to learn. They want to be a part of it. All right. And to them, everything is new. I don't want to forget. I made a list of some things I don't want to forget to discuss. Everything's new. Everything's a learning experience. And if you approach everything as a learning experience, you will benefit them 1,000,000 times over, because they will then have a new opportunity to learn. So when something pops up and they ask, even if you're reading a story and they interrupt the story and they say, oh, a camel, what's a camel? And your first reaction may be, don't interrupt, let me finish the story. Actually, you should take that moment to teach them about what a camel is, or whatever they're interrupting and asking them the question of asking you a question about. Take that opportunity to teach. Take that moment, even if it interrupts a story you're reading, to say something about it. And if they notice a color, they notice an animal, you can even encourage them by saying, look at the page. Do you see any other blues? Do you see any other camels? Whatever the story's about. And I'm just throwing those ideas at you. But you can see where you can really make reading a book very interactive and very educational. It's not just the words that you're reading, which are always beneficial to a child, but you are getting them to interact with you, to communicate, to ask questions, and you are being responsive with those answers. So it's really important. Just don't take it as an interruption. Even if you're trying to get through it, maybe you have something to do and you're like, okay, it's bedtime. We're going to read a really fast book. Give yourself a little extra time, even if you do have something to do. Give them a chance to learn. Give them the opportunity to ask a question and get a response from you and not just be shut down. When you shut down a child's curiosity, you shut down them from learning. So let them ask questions. Let them be curious. A curious mind is an intelligent mind. So let it grow and develop and get smart. The other thing to remember with kids, and I brought this up in other live broadcasts, is their brain is 100% emotion when they're little. And a lot like teenagers, toddlers and teenagers are very similar, where they actually react through a lot of emotion. So when your little toddler freaks out or has a temper tantrum, before you freak out, think about the fact that they are just filled with emotion. They haven't learned to self-regulate. They haven't learned to understand where this emotion is going and how it is appropriate for a situation. They haven't learned any of that. So give them a chance to relax before you react. Give them a few minutes of relaxation. Let them get out of that temper tantrum. Don't argue back. Don't fight it. Just give them a breather. You take a breather and let them breathe and breathe. And before you know it, they'll be out of that emotional state. They'll be more relaxed. And then you guys can talk about whatever the issue was that brought them to that emotional state. And that will be how they learn to self-regulate themselves. So I want you guys to try that as you're listening and get back to me on how it worked, okay? Really try that. The next time your child throws a fit, or if you have a teenager and they throw an emotional outburst, give them a break. Give them a breather. Walk away. You take a breather and let me know how it worked for you. Because believe it or not, they might just, in a few minutes, let it all chill out and go back to being calm. Because you didn't egg it on. You didn't fight back. You didn't just cause a battle of wits that gets you nowhere, except it gets you upset and them even more upset. You will have approached the situation in a positive way and in a much calmer way. Your key as a parent is to stay calm. Kids are very emotional, very excited, very fun, always want to explore things, always want to get into things, not to get into trouble, but to learn and find out something new. Your job is to stay calm, give them as much opportunity to learn and explore and keep to that excitement as you possibly can, and let them breathe, let them have their fun, and keep your household mostly safe. You can't put away everything, and they're going to have to learn boundaries, but you also don't want to have all this glass and dangerous stuff where you're constantly telling them no. You don't want that either. So guys, Let me know how all these little clues worked for you and see if it helped.